Thank you, my dear. Thank you so much, Claire. Namaste, everyone. A very warm welcome to Satsang today. Sadhguru Shri Mujiji ki Jai. Very happy to be with all of you. Those who are new, once you're inside the Hangout, the way to ask questions is to unmute your mic. And those of you on YouTube can post your questions in the chat and we will look at them. Ishani says, no sound here. Is it okay for everyone else? Is it okay for you in the Hangout? It's okay. I was telling her that it's this chair. Whoever's been sitting on this chair has been falling apart. It's very good. Yesterday also, or was it this morning, somebody posted this beautiful video of Mujiji. It is nothing, nothing, nothing. And Parvati is also there in that video. So can you accept that it's nothing? It's as simple as that. Because if this acceptance were here, then the truth is present. The acceptance is here that the appearance, whatever it might be, is just nothing. Then how can you distract yourself from the truth? So contemplate now whether we are still making something out of nothing. Because the mind will come and say, yes, yes, the rest of it is all nothing, but this one, this one is still something. How can you say this one is nothing? But it is. It could be relationship, it could be security, it could be the body itself. It could also be the seeker. It's all nothing. And the only trouble can come if we try to give belief to this nothing and try to make nothing into reality. When we try to make nothing into reality, can we succeed? Nobody can make nothing into reality. But we can play games with it. We can play games with it. We can give it our belief and pretend as if it is something. And most of you are now tired of this game. Nothing has ever happened. Nothing has ever happened. Nothing is going to happen. All that is happening is only phenomenal. And no phenomena can touch you. And once you drop this expectation of something, then what is present reveals itself naturally. Because the trouble is not that consciousness goes away or awareness goes away and you need to find it. The trouble only is that Being is always here. Seeing is also always here. It is only this ability to distract ourselves, to give our attention and to give our belief to these appearances, whatever they might be. Then what grievances can we hold? What ideas can we have? What story can still seem like your story? You can never be a mere story. Many say that I want to lead a meaningful life and leave a legacy. But all this is just nothing. It sounds very humble, it sounds very nice, but it's still completely egoic. Because the ego knows that this body is not going to survive. Yet it wants the sense of this identity to persist. And that's why it says, okay, now if you become a great one, then people will remember your legacy. They will make your statues and you will still continue. So this is the ego's defense against death, actually. And what a tame defense it is. There is nothing for you as a person to do or achieve. And I'm not against any doing or achievement. Not against doing or achievement. Only the sense of being a doer or an achiever. Only the sense of personhood. The great Indian sage had said once that Sage Kabir, he said once that the mud tells the potter. The potter uses the mud to make his pot. So the mud tells the potter, what are you doing crushing me? Have your play, but there will be a day where I will be crushing you. And that fate, that inevitability is true for all. All identities must die. Not just the bodies. The identity also, let it die now. To die, to let this identity die now, is what is called waking up in the waking state. Being awake in this dream, which we call the waking state. Yes. Vikas says, Father, is this what the sages say? Die while living. Die while living. Exactly. All that can die, let it die.
Father?
Yes, my dear.
I just felt to come up.
Yeah, very good.
I don't really know why. I just felt to come up. When you said, Muji said nothing, nothing, nothing. There's just nothing.
Yes.
And yeah. Somehow I feel like that's killing me, and I don't even know what I mean by that.
That's good. That's good. Because all that can die like this, it's very auspicious. We don't even realize sometimes what is going on.
No, I don't know what's going on. I just feel it somehow.
Because you have handed over your existence to grace. And now grace is doing what you truly want in your heart, which is your freedom. Freedom from this false identity. And many times when you hear that you are nothing, you hear like this, you are nothing, everything is just nothing, then something gets jumpy, you see? Something starts feeling crushed a little bit. You see? But you say that, I don't know what that is. And it's all happening on its own. So this is very good. This is very good.
It's just all happening on its own.
Yes. It's all happening on its own. In fact, our entire lives have been happening on their own. Our entire lives have only always been happening on their own. Maharaj used to say that the ego comes later and says, oh, I did this. Or why did you do this? It's a post facto claiming of something which is happening.
I've lost you. Where are you?
I'm still
Oh,
here.
there you are. Yeah. That was it, really. Yeah. It's just this sense of something being crushed, but it's not. It's not me. It's I don't know.
Yes,
Yesterday, when we were talking about the body, I really saw there's just there's just no body.
exactly.
There's no body here.
We can say that there is no body, or we can say that this body is as much a part of the realm of appearances as everything else.
Yeah.
This is very good because many times it feels like when I say the appearances, everyone feels that everything except the body is an appearance. But the body is very much included.
It's very subtle.
Very, yes. Yes.
I'm just so grateful.
Thank you, my dear. And then in the morning you wake up and you will have a sense of wonder about this body also. You will look at your hand and say, oh, you're still here. Then your memories will come and say, it's okay, this has been an interesting story so far. Let's see what happens in the next minute, what's going to come up. And it becomes so joyful just to see. And you see the beautiful movement of grace, which the mind could never understand. Supreme intelligence called grace is moving so beautifully. Everything is planned with this supreme intelligence to the minutest detail, but it hardly ever conforms to the mind's plan. That's why the mind feels that the world is random. But if you really look at it from the true perspective, I find nothing that is random here. All is moving with its own beautiful flow.
Even the mind resisting,
Yes,
it's just part of it.
it's all part of it. It's all part of it. Even the delusion and the freedom from the delusion are all part of the play. It's just that one voice has been given the designated responsibility, it seems, to point towards the true nature. And another voice has been given the designated responsibility to confuse you as a person. Mhm. It's just that these two voices, one is called your heart, which is pointing you towards the truth, and the other is called the mind. And the voice which appeals to you more, that is the seeming path which you walk. That only one voice is taking you to the point where no more voices are then required.
And I'm finding even when I get lost now, for a while, that that's okay too. It
Yes.
just
Yes.
comes and goes.
Because reality is unchanging. What you are in reality is not changing.
Yeah, I just see, oh, I've just been a bit lost, and now I just see that I've just been a bit lost. But it's like it never really happened.
Because you as awareness, you as being, cannot really ever get lost. Even the lost and found is happening as part of your own play inside you. All of this is about you, and all of this is nothing.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you, my dear. Namaste, namaste, namaste. Devika says, let all identity here die and burn in your presence, beloved Father, and let it all burn. Yes, it's burnt. It's burnt. Some twigs, burning twigs might appear once in a while, but you come to satsang and they are also doused. It's all burnt. All of you, in the light of your own seeing now, especially for those who have been in satsang for a while, nothing, none of these egoic tendencies can survive, no identity can survive in the light of your own seeing. Something tries to come up once in a while, it cannot last. Once you have tasted the amrit of your own presence, the nectar of your own presence, then no worldly nectar will entice you anyway. When you're diamonds, then you don't go running about in the world digging for some fossils or something. No taste can beat the taste of your own being. And when the world cannot tempt us anymore, and the world makes itself available as your servant, and the one who runs the world is in service to you. Yes, Bhagavati says it's like finding a seam of diamonds at our own heart than going begging on the streets. Yes. Yes says yes, Father, it cannot survive our own scene. Devika, our in-house physicist and mathematician, says, my new favorite equation, openness in the heart plus Father equals freedom. Openness in the heart plus Father equals freedom. Inescapable. Actually, openness in the heart equals Father equals freedom. Openness is all that is needed. Because this voice will appear to you in whatever form. Once there is openness for the truth, then you cannot escape this voice. It can come in any different form. It can seem to be embodied in different bodies, but actually it is the same Father. And that's why very often I say that suffering is a great ally for the truth. And maybe suffering is the greatest ally to the truth. Because openness rarely comes without suffering. Rarely comes. And this openness is tested throughout this seeming process. This openness is tested throughout. Sometimes I find that the ones who are fresh in satsang are the most open. And then with more knowledge, with more understanding, they get more and more closed. But this openness is very important because this one also has to be shown the door. This person who seemingly has understood something also will have to be shown the door. Don't rely on any knowledge, on no intellectual understanding. It has its place and it served its purpose. And Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj is one of the best examples of this. Because he was just a small merchant selling these small cigarettes called BDs in a small shop in Mumbai. Didn't have any education of this sort. Just went to his master and the master said, just stay with the presence I am. There was so much openness that this instruction, this pointing was taken without any buts, conditions, doubts. With this openness, this pointing was taken, and then in a short time, such beautiful words started emerging from his mouth. From the mouth of this body which was uneducated. And his words have become like a great scripture, and yet relying on no knowledge. Because you will speak only what you see, and what is seen is so clear and available at every moment. If you were to rely on knowledge or understanding to share satsang, that would be so much work. Like many still ask me when I go to a new place. When I was in Pune, my in-laws were saying, "So, have you prepared? What are you going to speak? What is the topic for today?" And it's understandable because that's how most of the world feels, isn't it? That you have to go and speak somewhere, you must have something prepared. But that seems like just too much work. And why? If the truth is real, it must be here. And the truth can use this mouth to speak. And when we have no concern about what the mouth is saying, then we let it just be. Yes, many times there's this wonder, so where did that come from? You heard me say this. Because sometimes your own mouth will take you by surprise with the words that emerge. Aparna says, Namaste, Father. My daughter is saying, Thank you, Father. Dear. Thank you, too. Very good. She also attends Satsang with me. All your grace. This is very sweet. I remember my daughter was probably about the same age when we went to Guruji first. Maybe a little younger also. Shakti says, Father, may I always come to Satsang fresh, empty of knowledge, open. This openness is very auspicious. Because the primal tendency of the mind is to say that I got it, I'm understanding more and more. But nobody ever knows whether they're just at the first step of this spiritual awakening or this freedom, or they are at the final step. And nobody ever knows how many steps there are. And the final step is the realization that there were never any steps. But it cannot just be a mental realization. There's the seeing that I have always only been this. Sometimes the mind will paint a picture for us and say, look how high you've come, look how high you've come. Then you look down and you're laughing at the others saying, you guys, you're still struggling with all of this, just drop it, it's simple. And then next day something happens and you feel like I'm at the bottom of the ocean. At the bottom. This is grace. Yes, yes. Bhagavati Ji says nothing can ever be complete because it has never been incomplete. Yes. Even the concept of completion is just another concept. That was just a thought believed in. And yet, very beautifully, as Priya said, just through grace, every day it seems like the magnetism of this person idea seems to reduce. It's so clearly visible that it was all only imagined. The person never existed. We have given our imagination to this idea. We have given our imagination to this idea of person and given it the belief that it is this person's life. And a lot of seeming investment has happened into this. That is why when we go to the world and we say that, are you open to looking at the person? It is rarely the case. Because it is the person itself that wants to find freedom. Without realizing that true freedom is freedom from the concept of personhood. That which is pretending to look for freedom is the one that needs to be set free. That which is pretending to look for freedom is the one that is needs to be set free. So let it go, just let it fade into the air. It is always just mythical. All your wants, all your desires, all your aversions, all your needs, all your attachments. Just let it be eaten up by this fire of satsang. And you bear this emptiness. Because for a short period of time, it will feel like this emptiness is too much. But it is not too much. Don't pick up any story.
So it's like a full empty color.
Hmm?
The emptiness
Yeah.
is like a full empty.
Full empty. Hmm. And you are where?
I am that.
And then when something appears, where is that?
Is what we see.
So it is just appearing. You can say within you, in front of you. That's okay. That's just terminology. But nothing that appears then can touch you because you realize that you're always just no thing. You are completely empty of all phenomena. And yet all phenomena emerge from you. You are this infinite emptiness. This infinite emptiness, which this entire universe is nothing but a grain of sand. No mind can ever fathom this magnificence that you are. You are this infinite emptiness, for which an entire universe is not even a grain of sand. But if this was always clear to you, then how would you have ever enjoyed this game? Then this entire game would always be played with no interest. If you knew this earlier, that I am that in which, for which this whole universe means nothing, not even a grain of sand, then could you ever have enjoyed this appearance? Hmm? Could we ever have enjoyed this story or had interest in it? That is, therefore, this is why you must have given yourself this power of belief, this power to pretend, knowing that you are untouched. Thus one says, Father, is it okay to be a skeptic? I have faith, but I do not want, but I do not want to believe or disbelieve anything. Is this a good approach? You don't be anything. Don't be a believer, don't be a skeptic. You be neutral. This is called neutrality, which is being nothing. So then, once you see that you are nothing, no thing, you see that you are no thing, then who will you call a believer or a skeptic? Who needs to believe or not or disbelieve? And then this true neutrality which you are speaking of will be seen. As long as there's still a person holding up either the believer or the skeptic identity, it is bound to get shattered. You see yourself as what is present now. Like you saw yesterday, stay with this and don't pick up any personal attributes. It is again the voice of the mind trying to put a label on that which is unlabelable. Unlabelable? Unlabelable? I'm sure that's the first time this word has appeared. Unlabelable. You're not laughing at my jokes. You want to say?
I'm not getting a taste of presence as much as
Yes, yes.
I'm not getting a taste of my presence as much.
Taste of the presence. So Ranveer says, you can say now.
I'm not getting a taste of my presence so much as before.
Oh,
Maybe I need the attention.
But
Only I have present when you look at me probably presence is changing. I feel that sometimes.
it can seem like that, but actually what is happening is that, well, leaving all the energetic transmission, everything aside, what is really happening is that you are no longer giving your attention to the distraction, the distractive energies. Because here you find that the presence is just here. So it's easy. It's like when you're sitting next to Arunachala, sitting next to the river Ganga, and the skeptics will say, but there's nothing, it's just a hill. The skeptics will say, it's just a river. It's just part of the appearance, part of the Leela. But it just happens that around some of these energetic places like this, there seems to be so much power which has this ability to dissolve all this mind activity. So it is said that when you go to these holy places, you don't need to meditate because meditation is happening on its own. See? And this is the living experience. So the mind can keep arguing with it, but this is how it plays out anyway. Same thing happens in the presence of the master also. But the master is pointing you to the true Sadguru in your heart, which is your presence itself. That is why it's good that you come to
Sometimes
Satsang.
there's a drowning.
Yes.
It's not happening all the time.
Yes, it cannot happen all the time. Because if some experience, no matter how sublime it was, if you have your favorite, what do you like to eat? What's your favorite dish?
The non-veg.
It's okay, prawns. So you love prawns. But can you eat them all the time? You cannot eat them. In the same way, you cannot keep drowning all the time. For anything that is experienced. So is a favorite piece of music. I love this mantra or some music or something. Can you hear it all the time? Put it on for 3 days, and by the end of the third day, you'll be like, please, never again. Yeah. Physical experiences. Yeah. Physical experiences. You say, I love this physical experience. Can we have it all the time? Within half a day, finished. Finished. No, no, no. You see? Beautiful beauty that you can see through the eyes. You keep staring at anything beautiful. How long will you see it? You'll get bored of it soon enough. The mind says, but this should stay all the time. This presence or something should stay all the time. The presence is here all the time. But sometimes it is accompanied by too much love, too much peace. What you call the drowning. Too much joy is there. And other times it's much more sober. And this beautiful flow, then you start trusting the waiter who is bringing these to you. And you're not ordering all the time, okay, that dish which I had, I want to eat that one. You're trusting life. And you're trusting and saying, okay, maybe it needs a break. Then I have a break. When joy comes back, enjoy. But know that this too will pass. Everything which is coming is going. Nothing is coming and staying, except you. You would not know the taste of sweetness if it was only sweetness that we were eating all the time. It needs a contrast. It needs a contrast for it to be joyful. If prawns was what was served day in and day out in your house, then you will want to go out for something else. So don't feel ever that life should be monochromatic. Just this one color. I said no, that suppose that you picked up a book, and in the book the protagonist was just happy. He woke up, he was so happy. Throughout the day he was happy. He went to sleep, he was happy. And every day is just the diary of this man. Yeah? Every day is just the diary of this man. How long will you read this book? I wake up happy, whole day I'm happy, I go to sleep happy. Nothing is ever happening to me. Day one, day two, day three. Say, man, do something, have some excitement in your life. Why am I reading this book? Then we have this, all of this that comes, that all this challenge drama came, this happened to me, and you want to read all these stories. And at the end, you want a happy end. This is it, come back to happy. This is how we entertain ourselves through contrast. There is joy, 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 then what's the big deal? And also, there can be no attachment to any state, even including joy. Because the mind will come and push this button. See, but where is the joy?
It's like, you taste a dish and then you're comparing it with your mother's dish.
Yes.
Is it as good as that?
Yes.
But then it's not, then
And
mine says it's not as good as that. So it's good or bad. Average. Like that.
no need for all of this benchmarking. Just trust the waiter called life. Bring whatever it is bringing. And no trouble, even if there's some preference. Even if there's some preference, that is no trouble. But don't be attached to the outcome. If there's a preference that I want to be happy, nothing wrong. I'm not saying that don't have this preference. But sometimes it feels like it is not available in the restaurant. To say, okay, whatever you got is okay with me. This is what I mean by trusting the waiter. And then life becomes like this wonderful buffet. Everything available at your beck and call. Everything is just coming. But not you as a person. All is in service to you in reality, but nothing is in service to you personally.
That's what they say. Like they're witnessing, it can be stinky or it can be perfume. Right?
Yeah.
The wind can bring
Yes,
garbage,
anything. Exactly.
smells from the garbage or from the flowers.
Yes.
So when you're witnessing it, it doesn't touch you.
Yes.
Does it?
The witnessing is untouched by any content.
The scriptures have a meaning when you taste the state.
Radha says, all arrogance at your feet, Father. Parvati says, going to a meeting now, going to be watching in the car, love you too. Govil says, Father, I surrender all my fears and desires, including this surrenderer, at your feet. Very. Maya says, unlabelable. Yes. Unlabelable. What is that which is unlabelable? It is truly like this. Even awareness, the word awareness cannot really convey what you are. Even witnessing, seeing, doesn't truly convey what you are. Because we have to use some words, some thorns to remove the previous thorn, we use these words. The truth truly is never conveyed in any label. Because you cannot just be a label. Namaste. All good? This is openness. Openness means, as Mujiji says, the prayer, replace me with you. Work. And once you make this prayer, replace me with you, then everything is my problem. You cannot have a real grievance, you cannot have a real problem then. We need to start putting a cushion under the table. Okay. You okay? It's fine. Namaste, namaste, my dear. So all that we are doing is speaking about that which is unlabelable. I'm really enjoying saying this word. Jess says, yes, yes, Father, replace me with you. Govind says, replace me with you. And Jess says, is Palak back there, Father? Yes, she's back. And I also says, love that word. David says, new one for the dictionary. Unlabelable. Satsang dictionary. Yes. Bhagavati says, there's something added the way you say it, Father. Because I start the word and I don't know when it's going to end. It's like unlabel, label, label, or unlabel, label. Thank you, Maya, my dear. Ah, Bhagavati says that we have a satsang cat today too. So good. So there are two cats. Want water?
Peacefully.
Mm.
I need to close my eyes to get there. Will it happen from waking stage as well? I mean, like when I'm driving my car, in my traffic jam.
So Ranveer says that he feels nice now, but it only seems to happen when the eyes are closed. And he says that, how do I keep this? Even when I'm driving on the roads, how can I keep this? But the truth of what I'm pointing is not even this nice. Not even this. This you don't need to keep. Everything that is coming is going. You are ever present. So the awareness of this niceness, feeling of niceness, this awareness is touched by this nice. And still the person who is saying that I now feel nice. Because this is how attachments work. You say that, yes, I sat in satsang, just closed my eyes, and such beautiful feelings came. Such beautiful feelings came. I hope the next satsang is also like that. You know, next satsang when you come, then sometimes lots of frustration can come, anger against me can also come. You know? When you're feeling nice, then it seems unfathomable, but it's very much possible that strong, because this is just all the pent up things which get released. You know? So just be you, be open and see that you are not touched either by this state or by any other state. You aren't touched by even this. And the best time to check this is when it feels nice. Because when you're agitated about something, then the mind is very strong and you will refuse to look. Now, if there's some feeling of calmness, this is the best time to look. Actually, even this calmness, I am not touched by. Even this feeling of nice, the witnessing is unconcerned about it. And then this is freedom, because you are free from then the play of any states which are constantly changing. Freedom cannot be a state where you are constricted, when you are attached to a particular state. Freedom must be freedom from states also. Use the moments of silence to just simply witness what is arising. Very often the mind can bring some strong resistance into these moments of silence. Very often, if you're outside the hangout and you're watching from YouTube and there's long periods of silence, then the mind can come and say, oh, this is now a little boring. Maybe let me check my email or something. Let me see what's happening on Facebook. You can play like this, isn't it? But this silence is the prasad of satsang. It's like the young children in India. They sit through all the rituals and all of that because they know they will get the sweeties at the end. Isn't it like that? So they know they will get some nice sweets at the end, which is called the prasad. So if you sit through all the words but don't sit through the silence, then you're actually missing the prasad. You did all the walking to climb up to the top of the temple. When you got there and you said, okay, this is just quiet here. Let me start walking down. With this silence, you let it permeate. Let it permeate within your being, and you will be completely used to this emptiness. As you drink the silence, you will find that time just becomes a concept. Time just becomes a concept. And every once in a while, you will have to check back with the time and see how much it has moved. Because for you, it stops moving. When you're completely present, then the movement of time means nothing to you. Stephen says, Anantaji, when one is telling, let your life be something for God to do. If there is anything to do, let God provide the energy for it to happen. Yes. A strong fear in form of a feeling in the chest arises, like a bad smelling ball of something. The fear, what if God does not put my life in the direction I want? This is so strong. Why is it that I give in and let me get taken over by this? This is a very good question. And this is at the root of a lot of fear. You see? This is at the root of a lot of fear. Because what is the feeling in this? The feeling is, if I surrender to God, what if He makes a mess out of my life? That's at the root, isn't it? If I surrender to the Sadguru, if I surrender to God, how do I know? Maybe He'll just mess it up. I don't want to live like a beggar. This reminds me of a beautiful story that Mujiji shares. He says that even in his case, this kind of fear would come very strongly. And he had very specific, because maybe he was an artist, he had a very imaginative sort of mind. So he would feel that if he was to get freedom, he was to surrender, then he will become like a hunchback, like Quasimodo. He says, hunchback like Quasimodo, and begging for alms on the road with a hunchback like Quasimodo. So the mind can come up with these sort of fears, you see. And it's very natural for it to come. You see. But what is happening here is that we are realizing that it is only been God who has already been running our life. There has never been a person. There has never been a person. How do we know this? Right now, we check and we find there is no person. I feel sensations which are of the body. I feel a sense of presence, which is the sense I am being. And yet, who am I still? Who am I? I am this awareness which is aware of presence, which is aware of body, which is aware of world, thoughts, everything which is coming and going. And yet, me as awareness, completely untouched by any of this. And if I am this, then who is that I have pretended to be? Where is that person? Where is that one? We can find no trace of this ego, this person. We find no trace. And then we see that it was just imagined. And it is not possible for something which was just imagined to be running my life. This is just like the other day I was telling Jesh, and since then I've been repeating because I feel it is very useful actually. Imagine that there is a 30-year-old woman. Give her all the attributes you want in your mind. Make her seem real. And then ask her to get you a glass of water. Is it possible? This is exactly the same thing that we do. We imagine ourselves to be a person and then say that this person has been running my life. To just imagine. So when I say imagined, it is not something which is an exaggeration of any sort. It is not exaggeration of any sort. This person has always been imagined just like this. And we say that this one has been running life. Now the discovery is there has been no such person. So who's been running life? It must be life itself. It must be being itself. But then so much power will not go to the seeming direction of life. Seeming direction of life will not be so much of concern for you because you see that right now you cannot be touched. And every time you check, you cannot be touched. Then who is concerned about the direction of life? How does it matter which content is coming or not? So it is still this personal identification which tries to play out in this way by painting these horrible pictures for you. Oh, what's going to happen to my life? I don't want to become one of those sadhus in Rishikesh. Hmm. This is just the mind. And Stephen says it seemed related to my special relationships, especially with my wife. She seems so real. Exactly, I don't know whether you're making a reference to that Mojiji's Satsang, where this one came to him and said, I can see that I am not real. And she was referring to the person. He said, I can see that I am not real. But I can never get myself to believe that my husband is not real. It means everything he does, everything he says seems to come from this person. But if there's no person here, then how can there be a person there? Because then consciousness only which is complaining against consciousness. Stephen says, I see it and it is becoming clearer and clearer that it is not me, but it feels like I am in this cloud of bad smell, not touched, but somehow hard to breathe. Not touched, but somehow hard to breathe. They're used to this feeling that this what is appearing is me, but we cannot find any me. Whatever the cloud might be, it might be the darkest, it might be the smelliest, or it might be the best. It is still just an appearance for you. It is you that says it is me. It can never really be you. And Stephen says it's like I try to swim and paddle to stay on the surface and drinking salty water waves. No imagination. You don't give so much power to any imagination. Because the mind will say, yes, let me paint this visual for you. And this seems like it is happening to you. It's keeping you just more and more distracted. So just let go of all imagination. Forget about cloud, forget about waves, forget about the sea. Just tell me what you are right now. And right now there could be these appearances. But are you the awareness of them or are you inside the appearances? Are you solely the content of your appearances or are you the pure witnessing of them primarily? And then you say, cannot join hangout as she strolls around. You can join, my dear. No trouble if she strolls around, it's okay. You see, many times my kids will also come in. Sometimes they'll be passing me a note, and sometimes they will be saying, they'll be pulling my hand to come away. So all this is okay. I know how it is. You don't have to be concerned about. And you say, right now, I am aware. And this awareness is the truth. This is unchanging. You say, I am before all this. Very good. Very good. And you can never become the object of the appearance. Then no appearance will bother you so much. He says she has a strong judgment about this cult called Nietzsche. And yet I have no judgment about her. Because as many of you know, my mother has been very spiritual all her life. And for most of my life, I've teased her and said, you go to your sad song, you know, it's just a cult. What is this God thing? It's just made up. So I know that voice very well. But when something awakens inside her and says, what am I doing here? What is the purpose of this life? Then you will find that she will also have this unshakable quest to come to Satsang. It doesn't have to be to this one. It could be in a completely different form. But the truth will always prevail. So you be just concerned about finding your true self and let grace take care of all the others that need to be taken care of. Yes, Stephen says, I sit around and listen satsang instead of doing something. Yes, I know this very well. In fact, once I read out and my family was very concerned after I first met Mujiji. I sent him a letter saying my family is very concerned and I'm not having any interest to do any work. I'm just sitting. To them, I was seeming depressed actually, and I was the happiest. I was happier than I'd ever been. But to the external world, it seemed like I've gone into some sort of a phase, joined some cult, become depressed, lost track of life. It was seeming like this. And I know it can seem like this. If you write to me on Facebook or on my email, I will send you Mujiti's response, which is very beautiful. We also have a video about it where I read it out once. I can send you that link also. I'm sure it will be very useful. Namaste, Lucia. Welcome. Hmm. Shivani says, my kids say the same. All I do is watch satsang. That I am a boring mom. Just sharing for Stephen. Yes, I missed the name. This boring mom is very auspicious for them, although they will not realize it. Hmm. Boring mom is very good. My mother actually tells me a story now very often. She says, whenever the family complains to her about me, we wait for this plane to fly past. You're also boring mom? too small to say that. So on the topic of moms, now when my family goes and complains to her about me that I have such a boring dad, she says that she talks about her master, and she says that he said that when I first became, I got initiated into becoming the guru for my group. Then I started sharing satsang, and there's a huge satsang, 100,000 people at least in any satsang. So the kids would say, so there was a PTA meeting, and the kids said to the guru that, Pa, please, when you come, please come as a normal father, a regular father. Please don't come as this guru. And yet, all these roles can be played with no trouble. Yes, Bhagavati Ji also says, Shivani, your kids are so blessed that you're in satsang, even if they don't see it right now. Jesh says, Father, unlabelable is such a strong pointer. Not only is reality unlabelable, but the problem arises when I label what I see. Yes, must allow the seeing to happen without any labeling. This is very beautiful. And you can just play with this also. You can just look at any object and see how the mind has this tendency to label it. And if you're not buying the label, then it cannot touch you. Then you cannot give it the sense of reality. Stephen says, I am surrounded by much person and ego, especially in life in Turkey. Turkey. Yes. Ajnani is also there in Turkey. I wonder where you are. Maybe both of you can connect and meet up sometimes. In fact, my wife and I have been feeling to go to Turkey also sometime. But it's okay. Don't have this feeling that, oh, I'm surrounded by nobody who understands. I'm all alone. It's very good like this. This flowering of true realization can happen no matter what the external situation. You don't have to be in an ashram. You don't even have to be in a sangha, although it can be very supportive to be in the sangha. Isabella says, yes, Father. Yes, please, Father. I would also like the link. Yes. We had this video, isn't it? We made this video, a highlight. So we will post it again. Stephen says, would it be good for me to leave this space? No. Nothing in the world you need to renounce. I've never said renounce the world. I've never said go live in a cave. Only renounce your next thought. It is enough. Why you want to renounce so many other things? Only renounce your next thought. What does it mean? Just don't give it your belief. Even thought can come, attention can go to it, it can seem real, but you refuse to give it your belief. It is not difficult. It is definitely much easier than switching countries. The thought says sometimes it's very difficult. It's just another thought. Yes, and in those times also just don't believe the next one. Forget about all the entanglement. The next one which is coming, it's always easy to withdraw belief. And if something is really strong, then use that as fuel for your inquiry because it is pushing some identity, the strongest identity usually. So find out who is this identity, where does it live, what is the address, and we find it. And you will find that it is just part of the imagining. Very welcome, Stephen. Bhagwati ji says, message from Jaini. Jaini says, Namaste Father, joining late today. My kids say the same thing. I'm sure most of our kids feel that what are our parents doing watching so much satsang? Why can't they just be like regular people? Shivani says, I left Ruby in the car with satsang, the beginning. I got back and she was singing Om Namah Shivaya. Very good. This is how it permeates. Even when they don't realize it, auspiciousness is permeating slowly. Ishani says, my mother says the same thing too. Thinks I'm depressed and lost. If only she knew how happy I am. Yes, exactly. Shivani says, we are completely irregular. All of us have been irregular all our life, actually. Bhagwati ji says, I am fortunate that my mother is quite empty thanks to many strokes. She meets me on FaceTime, Skype, and always says, I'm not really here, you know. And I smile and say, I know. Stephen says, I have to laugh out loud as it seems all a funny game. Ishani says, we are all together, taking each other home in a way, Stephen, including our families. Bhagwati says, my dad doesn't get it at all. Just looks at us both puzzled because the mind is there. My dad just says it's too difficult and abstract. I don't understand. Aparna says, Father, my mom doesn't even talk to me at all. She is very angry with me and I'm completely okay with it. But my dad supports me in all ways. And he is completely okay too. as he is spiritual too. And this, what your mom is facing, is also her satsang. Because as a mom, you know now that to not talk to your child or to be distant from your child seems like such a difficult thing. You must see now that this is also her satsang, which is pointing her, which will make her open one day. This is my blessing for her. May she be open to the truths. It's been 3 years since she stopped. I've heard many times like this. Parents become distant. Because you know what happens is many times as parents, we want to lead our lives all over again vicariously through our children. We want to, whatever we can do, you see many parents, isn't it? I wasn't able to do this, but I want my children to do this. Because we want to have a rerun. We want to have a reset of our own lives and we want them to fulfill our projections now. Because we feel that we failed somewhere in fulfilling our projections for ourselves. We feel now that life has given us a retry. Let's fulfill our projections to our children. And then when it doesn't seem to be going that way, our children also seem to be going in their own direction, then we feel like we want to control them still and we'll play all kinds of tricks. And when we refuse to give in to these tricks, then they say, okay, I have nothing to do with you because you're not fulfilling my projections. Scared? Fears coming. Is it saying something also? It's just this fear. Like, don't laugh. You must laugh. Stop here. No, really? He's not laughing at you. He's laughing at that which is not you. So you can provoke it enough so it comes full on. Mm. When is the first time you felt this fear? Mm. Have you felt it before? It's been there since when? What is it? It's like in your heart. It's yeah. Mm. Don't fear the fear. Don't fear the fear. Let it do its worst. Let's see what it can do. Let's see what it can do in the presence of Satsang. Mm. Mm. Yeah, okay. Don't resist it at all. Let it come up. Completely fine. Let it come up. Mm. Yeah, I'm there. all the fear, all the grief, everything you laid out, will all come out. This is why Satsang is here. This is why I am here. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Remember that it is not about the presence or absence of fear. You will come to a point that you will see that you cannot fear anything which is coming up. Then all these energies will lose their power. All these repressed emotions which have been shut down, which the world says, don't accept, push it away, be strong. You see, because we've heard things like this, be strong and all, we have repressed all of this. Here we are saying expose everything, let everything come up, just hand it over to me. It is my problem now. Yeah. And Miss Satya says, I asked my boyfriend, who are you? I asked my boyfriend, who are you? Just jokingly. And he said, water. I was like, okay, you had a much better experience with this experiment than I used to. Water would have been a pleasure to hear after I asked my wife this question earlier on. Maybe it's easier when you're boyfriend, girlfriend, and not husband, wife. But more seriously, I want to tell you that, because we love them so much, we want them also to experience the fruits of the peace that we have found through our methods. But usually it doesn't work like this. We cannot thrust it down anyone. This inquiry, especially because it's such a direct way of looking at the truths, we can never force anyone to either be in satsang or to be in inquiry. It just doesn't work. And yet, if there is a strong urge to help or for them to experience it, you check. You check gently, you knock gently, but don't try to break the door down. If it doesn't open, then it's okay. Their time will come. Everyone is finding their way to the truth. There's no rush to any of this. You be true to your truth. You be true to what has been found, and let others come to you and ask, what is it that makes you seem so free? What is it that gives you such beauty in your presence? And if they ask like this, then you can start sharing a little bit if you sense some openness. Without that, it's just like banging your head against a brick wall. It doesn't really ever help. In fact, it could even be counterproductive because they will have an aversion, more and more an aversion to this. So the wall that you want to break down, you're giving them more bricks to actually build it up because they start defending against this. Usually in relationships, and I'm not talking about you, I'm just talking generally. Usually in relationships, there's a lot of power play that happens. You see? And if anyone was to agree that your path is working for you, it seems like a giving up of power. To say that you are better than me, or to say that you have found something more useful that I haven't found, hurts the ego. So don't get into this ego play. You just be quiet in your presence, let light flow, let the role flow naturally. And one day, if someone asks, so what is it that you are so unruffled with all of this? What makes you so peaceful, so joyful? Then you can start sharing a little bit. But keep smelling for whether there is openness or not. Stephen says, just let everything be exactly like it is right now has struck me down. It's very good. Because when the ego doesn't have anything to do, it doesn't have anything to fix, then it cannot exist. It relies on doership. Priya, I have to leave. She says, I have to leave now. Thank you, Father, for allowing me to be this nothing. For all your love and kindness, I love you so much. Love you too, my dear. And may your cold also get better soon. Feel better. Love you. Jayani says, Father, I cannot express this love and gratitude here for you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you too, my dear. Love you. Anita also has to leave for class now. Thank you so much, my dear. Good to see you. So much love to you. Bhagavati ji says, Nirmai didn't buy the whole Zen thing. Nirmai didn't buy the whole Zen thing, yet followed me in and lay ordained. Such trust. Then Muji discovered me and I shared, and she didn't buy him at all. I carried on one day. I was playing a Muji meditation and she joined and fell in love. The rest is history. It was the same story when I came to you, Father. Yeah, she must have said, now another one. I know how it is. So what we say isn't our truth. Yes. But we can say, especially when it's coming from this place of ego, can never be our truth. So B says, Father was not sure whether to share this, so I will. One of the main reasons I have not shown up on Tuesday and Thursday satsang was because I'm at home at that time and wife and kids are at home. I didn't want to feel awkward watching satsang in front of my wife. I leave it at your feet, beloved Father. Don't have to hide any of this because I completely understand. I completely. There was a time where here, what happened is we used to have this large business at one point, and through grace, then we ended up losing it because of all sorts of reasons. And there was a time that there was not so much interest in work, and at that time, all I wanted to do was read A Course in Miracles or some of our other scriptures, read I Am That. And there was also this platform called A Course in Miracles Pal Talk. I don't know if any of you are aware of that. There used to be this group where they would get together, and I never had the courage to anytime say anything on that group, but I would just listen in and just hear, and I would find some sense of peace with that. But I still remember that when my wife, I don't feel I had kids. Maybe my son was there, but he was too young to understand. But when my wife would cross, I would just minimize the window. I would just minimize the window because I wouldn't want her to see what I was doing or what this is all about. So I know this. I know this. And yet grace takes care of everything. It takes care of all. So let it play exactly the way it is meant to. Don't have to force anything. If someone is uncomfortable, it's okay. It's okay. Life will find a way around all of this. Claire also says, me too, minimizing the window. Yes. It's a little difficult to do when you're the moderator of the hangout. I see. Aparna says, I had been hiding this from my father, but I told him finally about my attending satsang, and I encouraged him to go into in-person satsang. Hope he will, Father, next in-person satsang in Bangalore. He's very welcome to join, my dear. I'll be very happy to see you. And Claire says, it's okay today, I'm the only one here. Amba says, I also used to hide my love for Mujiji and Krishna until I couldn't anymore. Stephen says, all my thoughts are God's thoughts. All that is appearing is God's. And love them also if you will. Love them also, just don't believe them. If you feel that they belong to God, then your love can flow to them, but just don't give them your belief. Just like we love our kids. We can love our kids, but do we let them run our lives? Do they apply for our jobs for us? They don't. Let them dance around, let them jump on us. Love them, don't resist them, but don't just don't believe them. Yes, and Amba says, and in a way, when I no longer hit it from outside, I more fully accepted him in my heart. Yes, and this plays very naturally, very beautifully like this. Also, another dear friend was sharing the other day about how there can be this thing about whether to share on Facebook or not. To share on Facebook or not. And I remember that even when I got my name from Guruji, it was this fear still there that what will everybody think? Should I create two separate profiles? All this can play. And then very naturally you let it play as it's meant to play, and you find that not so much. The world is actually not as concerned about us as we feel that it is. We feel that everybody cares so much about what's happening with me and in my life. It's not so much. A little bit here and there. Devika says, I find a reluctance to talk where there is no openness, except with family members. Where I try to make the openness. Tell me if it works. I'll take some tips from you. But I have listened well to this satsang. Good. Because from my experience, it doesn't work like this. It doesn't seem to work. We can knock gently, but to try and make openness has never worked. Jess says, yes, same here, but I have hidden. Same here, I have hidden this, but you set me right. Yes, we were talking about you only, actually. And Shivani says, some part is also saying that it sounds crazy to regular people, and I do not want to explain or get involved in an argument, which also feels like avoiding seeing the spiritual ego, which will get offended here. But what is happening is sometimes I'll post something, although I don't post so much on my timeline anymore, except photographs. When I post something, the most unlikely ones will also seem to resonate sometimes. So don't put any boundaries or gates. If you feel that there's a feeling sometimes to share something, just put it out there. Don't be worried about the outcome. And if somebody wants to argue with you, don't get involved in that. Let them post something provocative. Let them attack your beliefs. It doesn't matter. Also, to be spiritual doesn't mean that we become sheep and we have to externally conform to everybody else's projections about how we should be. So just follow your heart, follow your intuition. Sometimes it says, okay, it's good to just let this go. And on other times it will say, yes, you speak up, you say this. It's okay. Moment to moment, you can follow your inner guidance. Claire says, Jai Shayu Ramdas. No, my dear. Not that I know of it. Ramdas is another beautiful being who recently got Guruji's blessing to share satsang. So maybe that's why we were talking about him in that thread, and maybe that confusion would have come from there. I said also the other day that so much help came when it was needed here. Grace got so much help all the time. Anytime anything was needed, it just came. So in the same way now, I want us to be available to all those who Guruji has given his blessings to share. There's a feeling here to want to help spread this light because it is Mujiji's light, isn't it? Guyana, Guyana, posted via Facebook. Also hide it from my hubby, Jayani. Jayani Jayani posted, also hide it from my hubby sometimes. He feels threatened by my love for you and Guruji. This is his satsang as I feel such love for him. Jayani. It can be like this. Jay says the conflict here was I use my Facebook for business, talking about our work, so felt confused about mixing that up. But the right thing will happen fast. The Supreme Intelligence is taking care of all of this. No need to worry about any of these. You know, some of you know that in my business we organize some events for our chief information officers, what are called CIOs. And then when I go there, then I face a lot of ribbing from all of them that you are now Babaji, what are you doing here? So all these kind of things happen. But as long as when the bird laughs at you, you can laugh along with them. You see, then nothing hurts. It means nothing. And Jess says, and also felt that my friends would think, also felt my friend would think, but you said something beautiful. You said that when we are not concerned about our thoughts, why should we be concerned about other thoughts? Yes. So simple. Yes. This trick is very important to see also. Because many now are saying my thoughts no important, but they still believe in the thought. What about the others? What are they thinking about me? How can they be a concern? If our thoughts are not true, then how can another's thoughts be true? Actually, I remember when these words first appeared, I was speaking with Regina, again from A Course in Miracles, and we were in Thiru together. And she was talking about something about being concerned about what another was thinking. And I said, it's not possible. Now that you're not concerned about your own thoughts, how can you be concerned about what another is thinking about you? I remember that this is how this came. Cornelia says, my family had to get used to Muji and you, father. Very quick one. Dennis says, if I was to give you another name, I would name you Everything is Okay with a smile on it. That's not bad. That's a nice name. Ramdas is here. Look at that. We're just talking about you, my dear. Thank you, Ananta ji. He says, Namaste, Namaste to you too. All my love and blessings to you. Hope you have a wonderful satsang on Saturday. So happy to hear this news. So happy. Aparna said, Father, I lay all my worries, fears, insecurities, my daughter, myself at your holy feet. Father, you have to run our lives. All is at your feet. Sadhguru is running your lives, but don't expect the way he runs it to conform to any idea that your mind has about it. There's this old saying, which is in Hindi, which says, "मन का हो तो अच्छा, मन का ना हो तो और भी अच्छा." It means that if it is off the mind, then good. Basically, if it is what the mind wanted, then good. But if it is not of the mind, if it is appearing in a way which is opposite of what the mind wanted, then even better. If you can have this simple attitude that all that is appearing is good, whether of the mind or not of the mind, all is grace, then it is good enough. Thank you, Jayesh, my dear. And Devika says, so powerful, Father, when you said to me, there are no others. Yes, there are no others. And Subhi says, so freeing, Father, thank you. It does seem ridiculous to ignore my thoughts about myself, but worry about my thoughts about what others are thinking. Isn't it? And yet it's a trick which is so subtle, and we seem to fall for it. So freeing, Father. Thank you, thank you. Very welcome. And Lucia also says, my husband still thinks I've lost the plot with all of these. Yes. At some level, we have lost the plot of this world. We have lost the plot, and we find a deeper design, a deeper intelligence. Because as long as we are so concerned about the world's plot and how the world is, it's good that we lose this plot so we can discover what we truly are. So your husband is not wrong. We have lost the plot actually, but it's a beautiful place to be. And now you're discovering the real plot, the real truth. And Ramdas says, network problem, sorry, couldn't hear. He just said that all our love and blessings from all of us, always with you. And whatever help you need, we are always available to you, my dear. And hope you have a wonderful satsang and spread Guruji's light with its pure presence. We are always with you. And Lucia says it was very difficult in the beginning, but he understands that this is very important to me, so he's giving me a little more space. This is good. This is love, you see. Love is freedom. Then Ramdas says, thank you, beloved Anantaji and the Sangha of Being Seva team for your unconditional help and support. Always welcome. Always. And you're also welcome here anytime. You can come to the hangout also and speak. I'd love to hear from you. All of us would. Love you too. Very welcome all the time. Who is going to sing for us today? Our very own Deva Premal is here.
I'd love to sing for you, Father.
Thank you, my dear.
If you meant me, then yes.
Oh, and look at that. The name that you got was Devika. Look at
I
that.
know. I know. I
Oh.
noticed that. Perfect.
I even figure out how grace works sometimes, you see. And then suddenly, very good.
Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim pushtivardhanam urvarukamiva bandhanat mrityormukshiyamamritat. 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 Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanat Mrityormukshiyamamritat.
Thank you, my dear. Very beautiful. And Claire, we can play the invocations now.
Okay.
Thank you. If you're having some trouble loading that, I just saw that Ramdas said that he would love to be part of the hangout also one of these days. You can be now. If you have the hangout link, you're very welcome to join now. And if you'd like to say something, we're very happy to hear.
Shalam Ananta Kripa Sarvesham Swastirvavatu Sarvesham Shantirvavatu
We're just saying we can pause it.
Sarvesham Mangalam Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina
Very good, Ram.
Sarve Santu Niramya Sarve Putrani Pashantu Akashit Bhakave Asato Masatmaniya Tamasuma Jyotirmaya Mrityurma Amritamaya Om Purnamida Purnamida Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Brahma Paramastu Om Shri Satguru Bhagavan Ki Jai Om Shri Satguru Murji Ji Ki Jai.
Before we, I was inviting Ramdas to come. But he says don't have the mic and webcam on this computer. Next time, my dear, it'll be good. You'll get some experience of how it is to be on the Hangout as well. We'd love to have you anytime. You're always welcome. Thank you all so very much for being in Satsang today. Sadhguru Shri Mujiji ki Jai.
Jay.
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 Wow.
Jay. Jay.
Okay, Claire, my dear, thank you so much for today. Turn the broadcast off.